Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's November 4th, 2024. We are in the Old Testament book of Zechariah. We're going to read chapter 8 today. Little change in the tone of the prophecy. It's going to turn towards restoring Jerusalem to its former glory. Well, I guess it's not really a different change of pace. That's essentially what Zechariah has been what God's been having Zechariah say to Zerubbabel, the governor, and the high priest start acting like you're being restored. Stop living as exiles. You're being restored. You might not see immediate results, but understand, you know how the story ends. You got to start working in that direction. And part of that restoration is Jerusalem being restored as God's city. And we're starting to get into the end time stuff and talking about restoration under Jesus and at the final days. So again, that idea that there's an immediate fulfillment of the prophecy in their day, there's a fulfillment that comes a little bit later in the first century with Jesus, and then there's that fulfillment that comes at the end of days. Talking about fasts in here, if you've got a reference Bible that's got the cross references at the bottom, you can look at these and see that they come when they're talking about the fast. They're referring back to Jeremiah and 2 Kings, and not actually fast, but those times as Israel was going into exile and facing its punishment, that there would be famines and they would run out of food, and there's sieges and they have no food. That's what they're calling fasts, and God is saying, hey, you know what? My restoration is going to be so great that when you remember those in the future, they're going to be feast days, like Esther. When we see in Esther that things were really bleak, but then they were saved, and then we had the Feast of Purim. So again, restoration is the theme in this section. So let's go ahead and we're going to read Zechariah chapter 8. Again, the word of the Lord of hosts came, saying, Thus says the Lord of hosts, I am zealous for Zion with great zeal, with great fervor I am zealous for her. Thus says the Lord, I will return to Zion and dwell in the midst of Jerusalem. Jerusalem shall be called the city of truth, the mountain of the Lord of hosts, the holy mountain. Thus says the Lord of hosts, old men and old women shall again sit in the streets of Jerusalem, each one with his staff in his hand, because of great age. The streets of the city shall be full of boys and girls playing in its streets. Thus says the Lord of hosts, it is marvelous in the eyes of the remnant that this people in these days. Will it also be marvelous in my eyes, says the Lord of hosts? Thus says the Lord of hosts, behold, I will save my people from the land of the east and from the land of the west. I will bring them back, and they shall dwell in the midst of Jerusalem. They shall be my people, and I will be their God in truth and righteousness. Thus says the Lord of hosts, let your hands be strong, you who have been hearing in these days these words by the mouth of the prophets, who spoke in the day the foundation was laid for the house of the Lord of hosts, that the temple might be rebuilt. For before these days there was no wages of man, nor any hire for beasts. There was no peace from the enemy for whoever went out or came in. For I set all men, everyone against his neighbor. But now I will not treat the remnant of this people as in their former days, says the Lord of hosts. For the seed shall be prosperous, the vine shall give its fruit, the ground shall give her increase, and the heavens shall give their due. I will cause the remnant of this people to possess all these, and it shall come to pass that just as you were to curse among the nations, O house of Judah and house of Israel, so I will save you, and you shall be a blessing. Do not fear, let your hands be strong, for thus says the Lord of hosts, just as I determined to punish you when your fathers provoked me to wrath, says the Lord of hosts, and I would not relent, so again in these days I am determined to do good. To Jerusalem and to the house of Judah do not fear. These are the things you shall do. Speak each man the truth to his neighbor. Give judgment in your gates for truth, justice, and peace. Let none of you think evil in your hearts against your neighbor, and do not love a false oath, for all these are things that I hate, says the Lord. And the word of the Lord of hosts came to me, saying, Thus says the Lord of hosts, the fast of the 4th month, the fast of the 5th, the fast of the 7th, and the fast of the 10th shall be joy and gladness and cheerful feasts for the house of Judah, but therefore love truth and peace. Thus says the Lord of hosts, people shall yet come, inhabitants of many cities. The inhabitants of one city shall go to another, saying, Let us continue to go and pray before the Lord and seek the Lord of hosts. I myself will go also. Yes, many peoples and strong nations shall come to seek the Lord of hosts in Jerusalem and to pray before the Lord. Thus says the Lord of hosts, in those days 10 men from every language of the nations shall grasp the sleeve of a Jewish man, saying, Let us go with you, for we have heard that God is with you. May God bless the reading of his word, and may God bless you. Bye.